The first step I teach people in RPM is you need a capture system. Something to get it all out of your head and dump it in one place where you know it's really there, so when it's time, you can at least look at it and figure it out. If you don't have one place where it all goes consistently, and that you have access to. If you do it on your computer at work, or you do it on your laptop, but by the time you open it and load it and everything else, you don't have time to even put something in because you forgot what it was, then you got a problem, don't you? You need a capture system that's consistent, at least one core place that it's absolutely there. Second step is once we capture, let's say we captured all these things. This is what it really looks like to his brain, the way he does it. His brain goes, I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta do this, and this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta do this. Oh, I gotta do this, oh, this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that, then this, then that, then this, and that, then this. Call this person, do this thing, follow this through, build this thing, do this business plan, get that money, make this thing happen, go there. How many feel stressed in your body? Say aye.
Aye.
So let me tell you what RPM does. You start to look at these things and you say, okay, there's all these things that are important. I've said they're important. I need to take this random stuff that makes me crazy and stressed and find some patterns. Before I figure out what to do, I get to figure out, does all this relate to something I want? He's lost what he wants in his list. And you go, you know what? This thing here, call my friends. Oh yeah, follow up with my friends from the seminar I went to. Oh yeah, coming over here and spending time with my sister. Oh yeah, going and talking to my girlfriend once. Okay, that all relates to one chunk, which is my relationships, let's say. Okay, over here, I need to raise money for this, raise money for that. I gotta put my money and my budget together this, I gotta do this, this, and I gotta do this and this and this. Okay, all of those relate to money. I've just taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 things I had to focus on, and now there are 2 things to focus on. My relationships this week and making progress on the economic side. I'm oversimplifying, but to give you a sense. How many would feel better already?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then I come over here and I go, okay, I gotta work out, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do to change my diet, I gotta prepare for that marathon, I don't have to run the 14th mile, but I gotta do this piece here, and I gotta speak to my trainer, and I gotta do this thing here too. Oh, that's all my body. I wanna make major progress this way physically. I may not do all these things, but I'm gonna make progress, because progress equals happiness. Even if you haven't achieved it, if you know you're making measurable progress, you will not feel stressed, you will feel fulfilled. So when I'm in a conversation with somebody, and they're talking about one of my 14 companies, how do I chunk that? Every company I have this metaphor. I say everything, if I were to say to you right now, I want to take every single thing that's in your house and we're going to move you, but here's what we're going to move you. We're going to take everything we have in your house and we're going to just dump it all on the floor of the new house. Just everything you've ever had, we'll dump it right there in this giant living room. And then now you got to organize things. Would you feel stressed? That's what he does. He doesn't even dump it on the living room. He puts it in a place he can't even find the dump. Okay, which is common. Some people put part of the dump here, part of the dump there. They never even know where the whole dump of all the stuff is that they're thinking about is. Now let's assume we did that, but I did one thing. I said to you, get this whole thing organized. You might not even know where to start, it'd be overwhelming. But if I said to you, everything in this room that I've dumped in this room will fit into 12 drawers. 2 chests of drawers. 1, 6 over here that's all personal items, 6 over here that's all professional items. And it's 6 I'm making randomly. You could have 5, you could have 4, you could have 10 if you're really busy. And one of those, for example, is anything relates to finances. One of those, anything relates to my body. One of those, anything relates to family. One of those is relates to anything that affects me emotionally. Right? Go through the whole list. On the professional side, it's anything that relates to marketing, anything to accounting, right? Anything that relates to planning, anything that relates to sales, anything that relates to... Could you, if you knew what these items were, pick up each one and go, okay, that goes there, that one goes there, that one goes there, in a short time, would the entire room be clean? Yes or no? Not only that, but when you needed to focus on something, could you find it? How fast? That's RPM. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to teach you a life management system. I want to show you how to create the drawers of your life. Question over here first. Give her a mic, give her a hand.
Silly question. Even when you chunk it, you still have to deal with it like one by one by one, right?
That's a great question. It's not a silly question. I'm going to actually show you what I mean by that now. No, that is not how you deal with it one by one. You still group it, and then you develop a sequence of what's most important. and then you focus only on the things that are most important, maybe I'll answer this woman's question in a more visual form, because since a picture's worth 1,000 words, let me throw up on the screen for you an example of somebody's, capture list. Okay, here's this person, who's a soccer mom. And this is a real lady. It was very much like this guy, only I had somebody in the back fortunately typing for me, and I just asked them if they would capture it, so we have a record of it. And she said, I'm so stressed out. I'm here at the seminar, but I know when I go home, my God, I don't even want to go home. I'm so stressed out. I'm having such a good time here. I don't even want to think about it. I said, well, tell me all the things you got to do, because that's how she thinks. Just get it out of her head. So step one, capture. She said, well, I got to drop the kids off at school. I got to get the kids dressed. I got to make breakfast. I got to drive my son to soccer practice. I got to pay the bills. I got to drop my daughter off for flute lessons. I got to prepare dinner. I got to pick the kids up from practice. After school, I got to do the laundry. Right? So, by the way, who can relate to this list, i.e. someone that's a soccer mom is a gross metaphor, and they got multiple kids going multiple directions, who they totally love, who they're trying to make things happen, and they are stressed out. How many know somebody like this? Say I. And by the way, sometimes they have added to this, I got to go to a PTA meeting, or I have my own little cosmetics business on the side that I'm also trying to make run, and some network marketing business, or, I work part-time here, by the way, I have a husband, or by the way, I have a wife, because this could be any sex today, right? So does this look like a lot, yes or no? This is for a day, she's saying, not a week. That's what I got to do tomorrow. That alone is going crazy. Some of you go, no, I do more than that in a day, no problem. I could chunk that. Some of you do have more experience. Let's look at ways we could chunk this. Let's go to the next image here. The way we could chunk this is we could start to organize these things. And we could say, okay, out of her list, we could look at her whole list, and we could start showing that a bunch of these relate to her, what? Kids. Dropping them off, getting the kids dressed, driving their son to practice, dropping my daughter for flute lessons, picking the kids up from school. That's all related to her kids, which is a beautiful category of focus, because do you think that category is more important than the activity, yes or no? Yes. In fact, if we were to look at all this activity and we wanted to change the way we felt about it, the first thing we do is say all this relates to one thing. That alone changes the way we feel about it. The second thing we do is say, what am I after with my kids? Am I just here to shuttle them around? While she's shuttling them around, could she be accomplishing something that matters to her with her children? Like connecting with them, or influencing them, or touching on their values. But she's so stressed out, I promise you when she's driving, she isn't thinking about that. How many can relate to this in some way? Say I. Because she isn't thinking advance, she isn't anticipating, she's just reacting to the stress of all she's got to do. The make breakfast, pay the bills, prepare dinner, do the laundry, that's all the household items. There's two categories. That's already a little better. Let's chunk it further. What you do is you start to create what we call an RPM block. And in a day, you might remember how I just chunked his week into like 5 or 6 items? I tend to get my day chunked into 5 or 6 items. 5 or 6 results I'm committed to. Other stuff may happen in that day, but these are the musts that matter most to me. Does that make sense? So if hers is, she looks at all these things for the kids and she says, you know what, I'm gonna come up with, and by the way, I do this as a visual chunking system. And guess what I put in the center of the visual of what I'm managing? The target. And that's because that's what your brain is trained to do. So when I look at all this writing, if all I do is look at the center, I know what I'm really after. I don't have to read all this. And I usually tend to highlight what she didn't do on here, a couple key words. But out of all that stuff she said she's got to do, the center of it is, what's my real outcome, she says? My outcome isn't to drive the kids and pick the kids up and drive around. My outcome, she says, is to connect with my kids at the deepest level. Does that start to change the way you feel, yes or no? I need to connect with my kids at the deepest level and to have fun with them and really have an effect on their value system. Because what I said to her is, I said, what if you did all this stuff? Are you going to feel fulfilled at the end of the day? You picked them up, you dropped them off, you did this, you did that. She said, no, I'm stressed after doing it all. I said, that's because there's no purpose in it. And I said, not only that, you don't even have a clear outcome except to get it done. So I said, let's come up with an outcome that's compelling. Let's find words that get your brain and body focused. So I said, what really matters most? She says, well, matters most, I love my children, I want to connect with them. I said, then why don't we make that the outcome? Forget about all the how-tos. What do you want with your kids? What's most important that you want to achieve with your kids? What's the outcome? What's the result? She says, well, I want to connect with them. That it? Just connect? No, I want to have fun with them. So I wrote that too. How do you feel when you're connecting on phone with your kids? Oh, I love that. It's one of the things I love most in the world. Suddenly, driving is one of the things I love most in the world. If I'm focused on connecting and having fun with them. And then she goes, but I also, I'm worried. I want to touch their values. I feel like I'm so busy. You're in the car. Why don't you ask them some questions? Why don't you find out what they value? Why don't you tell them a story about your life? Why don't you engage them? Why don't you play a game? She goes, wow, that makes so much sense. Now, before she writes what she's got to do, it's RPM, not RMP. The tendency is immediately go, what do I want to do? But when you know what you want, that's one thing. When you know why you want it, it changes the emotional quality even more. So I said to her, why do you want to connect with your kids at the deepest level? Why do you want to have fun with them? Why do you want to affect their values? And she said to me, well, that's what I'm made for. She said, that's what I am a mom. That's what I'm about. Plus, she said, they deserve my attention, not just me as a driver. I could send someone to drive them. And what else? I love laughing with them and being with them. And I said, well, who are you when you're really being the mom you're meant to be, when you're giving your attention, you're laughing, love? She goes, I'm super mom. And she got this big grin on her face. And she lit up like a Christmas tree. I said, okay, if you want to get that outcome of connecting with your kids at the deepest level, having fun, affecting their values, if you're going to be the mom you're made to be, have fun, laugh, and be super mom, while you're doing that, what are some activities that will help? Well, she said, well, I got to help the kids get dressed. That was on her list, remember? And I want to connect with them, though. She added to her to-do list. Oh, no, this makes me have more to-dos? To get that outcome, I got to not just dress them, I got to connect with them. What else? I got to take my son to soccer practice. I got to take my daughter to flute practice, and I got to pick them up. But she goes, I'm going to do all those things, but I'm going to get that result. Then I said to her, well, do you have to do all of those things, or could you still have this time with your kids and have some of those things done by someone else? So I don't have money for a personal assistant. Well, I didn't say that. But on some days, could you be the person that dresses your kids and takes them to school, but somebody else picks them up who also, could you carpool? Do you have a partnership? Could you make that happen? Well, no, I want my kids to have my time with me. I said, yes, and what's the time like been with you when you've been stressed out? She goes, I'd probably been better if they were driving with someone else. I said, so what if you were one of those instead of both of those? I'm not saying you have to do this, but later on we could look at that, and maybe it would be a better time one time that's totally there than two times when you're not and stressed out. How many follow this? And I said, what if that other time you actually had time to be or think or breathe or make love or whatever, pray? But you're never going to do that when you're always in reaction to being stressed out. Let's go to the next block. The next one is, she says, but I got all these things I got to do. I got to make breakfast and I got to do laundry. And I said, okay, what are all these things, paying the bills, making dinner, doing the dishes? I said to her, tell me something. What are you doing all this for? What's the outcome of all this stuff? What's the result you're after? You're not just here to do all these things individually. If we put them all together, what's the big result you want? So you're not having to do it. Is there a difference between having to do something and wanting to do it? Yes or no? And many of you say, I have to do things that you actually want to do, but you've forgotten. You've just gotten a bad habit of saying, oh, I have to do this. And you're in a habit too because you've lost track of all the other things that matter. She said, well, I really want to create, and I don't want to just create, I want to maintain a magnificent environment that supports my family and feeling like I really am there to nurture them as a mom. Is that a nice outcome, yes or no? Is that different than I have to make the breakfast, do the laundry, fold the clothes, go to the store, go grocery shopping, pay the bills, make dinner, and do the dishes? Versus what I really need today is I want to create a magnificent environment that supports my family and feeling really nurtured. Why? Because we deserve it, she said. She didn't say they, we, it was nice. I deserve it too, she said. Because cleanliness is next to godliness, she told me, right? She comes from a traditional background. And her family, that's what it was, and she values that. Most people, she says, their homes are sloppy because they're so busy. I'm busy, but my home is always great. I have pride in my home. I want my children to have pride when they come. When someone comes to the house, I want them to feel like, wow, this is a beautiful place. Why else? Well, clutter makes me crazy. Order makes me happy. I said, what do you call this woman who is this superwoman who, keeps things so clean and is constantly making things an environment that nurtures and so forth? She goes, well, I'm like queen of the kingdom. I love to give people get an identity term that they trigger. Because you know what? As the queen of the kingdom or the housemaster, she doesn't mind doing this stuff. but she minds it when she feels like she's the maid. One word change. Does that change how you feel about it? That change how the time feels when you're doing it? It's an identity change. It's her identity, not mine. I'm not making a judgment what should be or not be. It's her. So I said, in order to get that, what do you got to do? She said, I'll make breakfast, do the laundry, et cetera, et cetera. With this woman, what I did then is I said, okay, now you have 2 RPM blocks. You have this thing here, which is connecting with your children and giving them the attention they deserve and having fun and impacting their values. You have this one here, which is creating an environment, second target. If you're looking at a day, I'm doing this really in an ugly way because I'm fast, but these 2 targets, it's creating this environment that nurtures your family. You got these activities. I said, let's asterisk the ones that are must today. This one, and this one. This one, this one, this one. What ones could we leverage to somebody else? No, could somebody else do? She goes, well, actually, my husband's going to be right over near the soccer practice. He could pick her up if I drop her off. Would he be cool with that? Probably would be. Especially if you said, honey, when you see her, ask her about this and this and this, because she's dying to talk to you about this. Now he has a purpose in picking her up. He isn't just the taxi service. He'll be saying, why don't you pick her up? Or vice versa today, because it usually be the opposite. The woman's going home, right? And the husband's doing all these things. And he's saying, why don't you pick up? And she's saying, I'm working at work. You got to pick him up. But if he said to her, honey, Charlie, your 7-year-old wants to share with you this and this and this, and he would be so proud if you came by the school. How many now, if you got a son named Charlie, have a lot more vested interest in showing up here? Actually, you might even look forward to showing up, even though you're busy about other things. How many can feel the difference there? So when you leverage something, you give them a sense of purpose that relates to what matters to them. And then they're vested in following through. That's what you do if you're a good parent or a good leader or a good friend or a good business person. I'm giving you way too much right now. But are you still glad? Because everything I'm telling you, I'm starting to go into too much of the mechanics for you. We should do this a step at a time, but I'm trying to give you a preview of what you'll do an hour or 2 a week with a coach. Listen to an audio tape each day just on one of these segments. Do a little task, then get an interaction with a coach. I'm telling you, you'll get results, and pretty soon you'll be a whiz. People are like all stressed, like, oh, here, let me show you. I'll show you. I'll just organize your life. Click, click, boom. Because really, it just becomes natural for you. Now, by the way, if we went through this and I went through each item on her list, pick up the kids. How long is that going to take? She says, well, I don't know. Well, 15 minutes. Okay? Going by the grocery store, 45. Doing this. And I go through the list of all things that, let's say, relate to her kids as an example. And we find out the total time really is 1 hour and 15 minutes. The time you spend talking about it, being stressed about it, maximizing in your head, like going to work out in 89 pieces, you think of it as 5 hours and it's 1.5 hours. And then all the stuff to support the environment at home takes 1.5 hours. And we come up with a total of 3 hours out of her 12-hour day. And she gets a reality. She goes, no, it takes more. Okay, well then tell me what takes more. What takes more is all the time you have thinking about what you need to do and you're not doing it, on all the interruptions you take because you don't have a plan, so you do other people's plan. By the way, we can even make this less if we look at which ones are the musts. Maybe 3 hours total, could be 2 hours the musts. So I said, well, what else do you want out of your day? And she said, well, want? I've never thought about what I want. What else is important to you? She said, well, being beautiful, and I don't feel beautiful. And why don't you feel beautiful? Well, a girl's got to have time, and I have no time. I think you do. She goes, no, you don't know all the stuff that comes up. I said, I do know the stuff that comes up, but you're letting it come up. Tell me what else comes up. Well, my mother does this. I said, okay, so let's create an outcome for the other members of your family, your extended family. What do you want to do with them today? Let's be proactive. Let's call them and scare them. What are you calling for? Just because I love you. That'll mess them up, won't it? There's no problems. You're not calling for their solution. They're not calling you for their problems. You're just calling them and just saying, listen, I'm on the run, but I just want to spend a few minutes with you. Do you have a minute? If you don't, it's okay. Just want to let you know I love you. Let's see how long that would take. Well, it's my mother. It's 3 hours. Okay, 3 hours. But if you called her proactively, maybe it's 90 minutes. Maybe it's even 30. If you called her each day, it might get down to 10 or 15. Because she doesn't stock up all the things she's wanting to share with you or is upset about or is worried about. So we do this little target here. We're going to support other family members, and maybe that's a whole hour. Okay, that's 4 hours. What else do you want out of your day? Well, I'd like to be beautiful. Well, let's describe that. I'd like to nurture my own sense of beauty and joy within myself so that I'm more radiant. Why? When I'm radiant, my husband desires me. When I'm radiant, I'm proud of myself. If he doesn't, someone else will. If I'm radiant, and she gives this long list. I'm even better with my kids when I'm radiant. Wow, now she's alive. Now in a sense of radiance, well, how would we do that? She goes, well, I'd get a pedicure. I mean, I don't get them very often, but I'd really get a pedicure. I felt guilty if I did, but why not? Right? What else would you do? And she gives me the list, and we add up, including a bath, and the whole thing is 90 minutes. Okay, we're at 5.5 hours. What are we going to do the rest of your day? Now let's leave 2 hours for all that you're going to be interrupted about. We're still 7.5 hours. What else you want to do? And people in the beginning, they don't believe it. They go, no, this is not right. I said, well, tell me what I'm missing. And I want to tell you something. It's the chunking that is making you think it's so long. But you got to stop the story that you have no time. You have all the time there is. Chunk your life will change. If you want an extraordinary life, it doesn't just happen. You got to create it. The best way to create it is develop a system so it doesn't happen once in a while. When you're lucky, you can count on it like clockwork. Sure stuff's going to interrupt you. Sure stuff's going to stress you. But you know how to get right back on target. And whether it's managing your time or managing a life, they really can't be separated. They go together. If you know what your life's really about, what you value, what's most important to you, not hard to get back on target. If you know what you want, why you want it, you'll come up with a map on how to get it done. If you surround yourself with other people that are committed to having an extraordinary life, it becomes even more easy. And yes, does it take a little more effort? Yes, in the beginning it does. It's called the rapid planning method because once you've done this a little bit, guess what? It's like putting a seminar together. I know there's only 5 things you really got to focus on, or 10 or 12. I start to think about those outcomes, I know why, and boom, everything flows. And all of a sudden, everybody thinks you're a genius when all you are is somewhat focused, organized, and clear. But you still have total flexibility to change your mind, do anything you want to do. You're not locked in place. It's not an anal process. It's art. It's the art of your life. So I hope I've hooked you. If I have, then get with your coach right away. If you're here and you're not one of our platinum or you're watching here on film with us, then please call our offices and get yourself a coach. And we have a program called The Time of Your Life. And if you want the time of your life, get yourself a cool plan. Again, you can do one step at a time, like 1 tape a week or 1 tape a day. Listen, audio tape while you're driving, net time, right? Get yourself reassociated with this. Hear it enough times, enough repetition, it gets in you. Do it a few times. Your coach will guide you through it. Before you know it, you'll have a life plan, not just a plan for your day. You have lots of flexibility. You'll make it happen. So I'm really, really grateful I've got a chance to share this with you. Does it sound like something that you're committed to really mastering for your life? Yes, no? Right, give everybody a big hand. Very nice.